My brother was able to secure his future as a doctor back when he was a sophomore in high school. In this video, we're going over exactly how he did it and how you or your student can do the same thing. So if you're thinking about going down the medical school pathway and becoming a doctor someday, you'll definitely want to pay attention here and see how you can give yourself a leg up on everyone else. With how competitive the pre-med and medical school application process is becoming, if you're not starting in high school, then you're already falling behind. So let's talk about how you can become a doctor, even if you're only in high school right now. So my brother just earned his MD a few months ago, and he's now officially Dr. Weekley, the vascular surgeon in training. And no, he didn't actually do this, as a 16-year-old in high school, but there were some things that he did do back in high school that set himself up to be where he is now. And so early on, Adam knew that he had an interest in medicine, and he knew that he wanted to use that interest and his skills to become a doctor and help other people out someday. And so when he started high school and he started thinking about his potential careers and all that stuff, he looked to what his eventual goals were, which was, for him, that was becoming a doctor, going to medical school and then becoming a doctor. And he figured out that he was gonna have to work backwards from there to see what he could do in order to maximize his chances of becoming a doctor. Because obviously becoming a doctor is not an easy thing. It's a super competitive space, and it's not just like everybody who wants to become a doctor can become a doctor. So when he started with that ultimate goal of becoming a doctor, he started reverse engineering the process to see how he could eventually get there. And so working one step backwards from that getting into medical school goal, you need to have a couple things on your resume. You need to have gone to a great pre-med program, and you need to have a lot of research and experience, and you need to have some doctors and professors vouching for you along the way. And so when he looked at those goals as a freshman or sophomore in high school, he knew that there were just a couple things that he could start doing that early in order to, put himself in a position to have those three things. And what he decided to do first as his highest priority was set aside just a dedicated period of time of a few weeks to study for and take the ACT, get a great score, and then never have to worry about that test again, which would allow him to not only free up his time later on to do some research and more serious medical school activities, but also, give him the credibility of having a great ACT score when he went to actually go for some of those positions. And so that's exactly what he did. He studied for the ACT for a few weeks, got a great score of a 34, and then put that test behind him, and that allowed him to free up his schedule for a lot of other things later on. And after he earned this score as a sophomore, he was now able to focus all of his time on reaching out to doctors to try and get some sort of experience. And what he did here is he tried to just leverage all of his possible connections to any doctor, and then also just cold reach out, cold email, cold call a lot of doctors in the area as well. Obviously, doctors are very busy, so it's a really tough task to get some of them interested in, sharing their knowledge with you and even letting you help out for free, because they already have so many people who want to work with them for free that, you have to stand out somehow along the way. So he reached out to a ton of people and, obviously was unsuccessful at first, but eventually he found one doctor who needed some help with just some super menial work, like some organizational stuff and like helping patients check in and like just very, very basic tasks. There's a big difference between reaching out to a doctor and just saying, hey, please teach me something. I can help you out maybe. And or reach out where you say, hey, I have a 34 on the ACT. I'm interested in these pre-medical programs. I have an interest in this specific specialty, at least, somewhat of an interest in this specific specialty. I'm willing to work for you for free and kind of learn some of the basic tasks, help you out in any way that I can in exchange for just getting my foot in the door and learning as much as I can about the field. Obviously, you want to take that second approach as much as you possibly can, which is what he was able to do. And that was a big help in getting him to land this first initial role. And so then he actually backed it up by, spending an entire summer working for this doctor for free, doing very, very basic tasks, but picking up a lot of good information along the way. And by the time that summer was over, he was actually able to pretty quickly land another role with a different doctor doing some actual more meaningful work on a research position. And the way he got the second position, the research position, was because of the first position. He was able to use the first position as a stepping stone to get to the second one. Like by the time he was reaching out to doctors the second time, he was able to say, hey, I have this, 34 ACT, but also now I have experience with this doctor doing, some more basic stuff, but the doctor's able to vouch for me and kind of say, hey, this kid works hard. He shows up on time every day. He did all of the tasks that I asked him to do. And he actually had some real knowledge that from just hanging around people who were actually in the field already. And so this second position that he got was a lot easier than getting the first position. And because this was a more research-oriented role, he was actually able to do this even during the school year, just in the evening times after school and on the weekends when he wasn't in classes. And so by the time he applied to college, he not only had a 34 ACT, but he also had two 2 tangible experiences that he could point to on his resume and write about in his college essays for why he wanted to attend a certain school and why he wanted to really be on the pre-med track there. And this combination got him access to the honors college at the school he went to, and it got him a full ride scholarship. And one super important thing to note here is that a lot of schools now are offering direct acceptance into their medical school through their undergrad program. So you definitely want to do your research into these programs and see which ones you can apply to as an undergrad and basically get a direct acceptance into their medical school with an 8-year program, where it's still 4 years of undergrad and 4 years of med school, but you're guaranteed acceptance into that medical school. Obviously, the only way to get accepted into these programs is to have an incredible resume. So you would definitely want to have, obviously the ACT score, but also your grades and, some sort of research or shadowing experience with real doctors. Now, Adam did not attend a program like this, but he was able to still continue using that stepping stone approach that I talked about earlier, where he was able to say, I now have 2 tangible experiences working with doctors. So by the time he was a freshman in college, he was able to actually land some really serious research roles with some of his professors because he could point to that past experience that he had. And then all throughout college, continued using that same stepping stone approach to get better and better research opportunities and more experience with real doctors. And so by the time he applied to medical school, he had an incredible resume that included not just, great grades at an honors college, but more importantly, he had tons of doctors and tons of professors that he had worked with in the past, all vouching for him. And he could point to all of this experience and talk about it extensively during his medical school interviews. And so all of this just came together for a pretty successful medical school application process where he was able to get immediately accepted from undergrad into medical school and not even need to take any additional research years or additional gap years after his undergrad. And now, just 4 years after that, his official title is Dr. Weekley, which sounds still a little bit weird for me to say, and he's on his way to becoming a fully trained vascular surgeon. And it's all because he started early in high school and he decided to take action early. So what are the key takeaways here? Well, you have to lay out a specific plan to get to your goal. I always like starting with your end goal in mind and then working backwards from there, kind of taking a step-by-step approach to reverse engineer exactly how you can get from where you are right now to where you want to be eventually. And once you lay out some of the general milestones that you want to hit, you want to just focus on exactly one thing at a time. And for him, he decided that the first step, the highest priority step for him, was to focus on the ACT and get a great score on that and knock that out as early as he possibly could. Spending just a couple weeks studying for the ACT as a sophomore and then getting that 34 is really what unlocked the rest of the pathway for him to become a doctor. Imagine if he wasn't able to knock that out in just a couple weeks. I mean, many students spend months or even years dragging out that ACT process. If Adam dragged out the process for that long, then who knows if he would have had the time or the credibility in order to get his foot in the door with that first role with the doctor. And then if he didn't get that role, who knows if he would have gotten that second role, that more meaningful role as a high schooler, able to do some real research with another doctor. And without all of that stuff, who knows if he would have been able to get into a great pre-med program at an honors college with a full ride scholarship. And from there, it's kind of like the butterfly effect. If you don't do that first thing, who knows what would have happened later on down the line. Would he still have gotten into a medical school directly out of undergrad? Would he have had to wait a couple years? Would he have even gotten into a medical school at all? And would he be a doctor right now? Maybe he would have, maybe he would not have. At the end of the day, what we do know for sure is that him being able to get that 34 on the ACT and only spend a couple weeks training for it enabled all of this stuff to happen later on down the line. So I've put together a full breakdown of my ACT hacking system that I use to get a perfect 36 on the ACT and that my students now use to consistently see 5 points or more of ACT score improvement in just about an hour per day. It should be linked somewhere on the screen right here, so go ahead and tap that video and give it a watch if you need to improve your ACT score and you don't want to drag out the process forever. And if you have any questions for me on either the ACT or college applications in general, then go ahead and find me over on Instagram and shoot me a message there because I do respond to all direct messages that I get. And otherwise, I'll catch you in the next one.